we're certainly created a product that uses artificial intelligence and machine learning to essentially automate email monitoring and email surveillance for member services. So member services at DCU gets hundreds of thousands of emails every year, and they have to manually go through these. They have tons of people that are kind of going through, and a lot of those requests are repetitive, and it's the same. It's the kind of thing that you can easily automate, and a computer can learn to read it on behalf of a person. The mundane stuff, so that the humans are left behind reading the more interesting and potentially more value-added. What we found was that as we were using our technology to automate use cases within credit unions and financial services firms, that there was a strong need to look at fraud, and specifically a category of fraud called synthetic identity fraud. And that's become a real problem for the industry. A lot of banks and credit unions are actually being scammed out of tens of millions of dollars without even being aware of the fact that they're lending money to these borrowers who are fictitious, and they've been created by some hacker on the other side of the world. The typical synthetic identities are typically 2% of a loan portfolio, but they account for 20-30% of the write-offs. To scale, we call it scaling the analyst, the human intervention, taking the know-how of the fraud detection team and allowing them to review tens of thousands of loan applications every month, which clearly they're not staffed to do with people. But the simple stuff, the easy stuff that humans would be able to identify readily up front to protect them from having those loans go through the process. Okay. Working with the Federal Reserve Bank here in Boston, fraud detection is a big problem for them, for the whole industry. They've recognized that there's actually a lack of education and no knowledge in the space. Less than 20% of financial institutions even know it exists, despite the fact that it's actually accounting for the majority of the write-offs in their consumer loan portfolio. Another big pain point that we've heard from credit unions and the industry is anti-money laundering, AML. And terrorism financing, and that's a really old, the rules are from the 1970s, and the technology hasn't really caught up with that. A pain point for the credit unions, it's a pain point for the government because it's ineffective. So that's where we landed up through this think tank that we run in Boston, of which DCU is one of the primary members, coordinating with some folks on the House Financial Services Committee in DC, and the Senate Banking Committee, and they loved the approach that we were taking, this collaborative approach of having the AI learn to do a lot of this repetitive work to make the banks and credit unions more effective, but also to provide more quality information to the government. So there's an initiative going on where it looks like there's a spirit of collaboration with folks in Congress, which is pretty incredible. Yeah. I actually authored a letter that was sent by the House Financial Services Committee to FinCEN, which is the Treasury Department's financial crime unit. And that letter was sponsored by a congressman who came up and spoke at our event, but it was also, important part is it was signed by 14 members of Congress, 7 Republicans and 7 Democrats. So it's clearly a bilateral initiative to fix this, and we're fortunate to be part of it.